Hey everybody, I'm Greg Sowell, and this is Why Am I, a podcast where I talk to interesting people and try and trace a path to where they find themselves today. My guest this go around is Lady Pink. Pink is known for a lot of things. She was an accomplished graffiti artist. She's potentially a hip-hop icon as the lead in the defining movie Wild Style, but those are all just origin stories. She defines herself as an artist. I quickly realized that she's a person that knows their purpose and power, so I had better not mess around, but I also learned that she adores kids and gives a lot of herself and a lot of her time to growing and nurturing them. I love that dichotomy. She's definitely my kind of people. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Pink. Lady Pink, thank you for joining me on the Why Am I podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the interest of time, I will jump right into it. You and I are somewhere. Where are we? I feel like we're in the grocery store and the line's backing up. I've got a bunch of celery and carrots. I'm trying to do this like sad dad thing where I just eat healthy right now. It's unfortunate and I feel bad. Anyway, we strike up a conversation. I tell you about me. I am super boring. I don't need to get into it. I'm super boring. So we get through it really fast, but it's your turn to reciprocate. So who are you?
I am an artist. I am a New York-based artist. My origins is that of a graffiti artist. But, you're a bit presumptuous. You think that I will converse with you in a grocery line? Absolutely not. I do not stop and talk and tell my life story to complete strangers, especially if you've just conveyed to me that you're absolutely boring and ordinary. I'm afraid not. I walk in the realm of other interesting and amazing and famous artists. I've been doing this for about 42 years. And I do not tell my life story to everyone. I travel the world. I've exhibited in museums and galleries all over in every corner of the world. But my origins are that of a teenage graffiti writer, sneaking into the subway yards as a kid, sneaking out of my parents' house, out of the window, going to the worst neighborhoods of New York City in the middle of the night just to meet my friends. And then there I would be like, trying to sneak into a train yard or a tunnel or some crazy ass mission and hopefully to paint a subway train. And we call this fun. But, that led to an art career. Before I knew it, people were like, galleries and museums were inviting me to exhibit alongside some of the best graffiti writers out there, the cream of the crop. Now, I started in 1979. But the guys through the 1970s had already kicked ass. They did like amazing subway trains, whole cars, and there were heroes and legends and celebrities, people you wanted to meet, and because of the amazing subway trains they painted. And then at 16, I was exhibiting with these guys. I met them all in a blow, in a gallery, and I was still a toy, and that's what you call an amateur. And I had to get good fast with these guys. I had to try to keep up. They were like in their early 20s. And I was the baby of the bunch. But surprisingly, in 79, all of these young cats were feeling like they needed a female representative. They were feeling the feminist movement through the 70s, and they were being supportive. So I was their token female. They literally crash came to my high school to find me and invite me to be in the first gallery show. And I was like, oh my God, I could barely do a straight line with spray paint. But, I had to get good fast. I was just starting on the trains. You got to practice with spray paint to get good. So like, that's my origins. That's where I began. And that is not appropriate to tell people in a line on a grocery store.
Are you kidding me? You would have me like instantly. Like I would be instantly.
No. And then you also assume that I even go grocery shopping.
Oh my, I'm sorry. Things come to you, right?
I don't. My husband handles all of that menial stuff like that leaves me free to be the artist that I am. He handles some of the housework and, the cleaning, the cooking, and he's also my executive assistant at what I do here. But, some of that stuff, no, I don't really drive. I live in the country. He's the one that drives. It's mostly his job to go to the grocery store.
Well, I'm curious. You say, when they came and they found you, you said you could barely paint a straight line. What is it about you you think that they said this is the one, that pink is for us?
Well, at 16, I was already attending the High School of Art and Design.
Oh,
And
wow.
was already, and that is in Midtown Manhattan, the middle of New York City. And that's a vocational school. They don't have these in other cities, even some big cities, they don't have them. A specialty high school, you got to apply to get in, show a portfolio, all of that. So there are talented kids from every corner of New York. I met like 300 graffiti writers at a time, literally. And some of these guys knew how to get into the subways. Sure, they lived in like crazy neighborhoods in the deep Bronx or the depths of Brooklyn or someplace, but they had spots. So you gotta practice style. Graffiti, New York-based graffiti, is all about lettering and fonts and style. And you gotta practice, 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 and do it in books, do it on paper. And each area, each borough, let's say Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, everyone had their own distinctive style. The same way that you would find a dialect in a different place, how they speak, or, they're British, or, they're from the South, or, how they handle English. This. Even closer to more regions, you can tell where people are from by their dialect, the same way you could with fonts and letters. And now it's worldwide. You could tell like who's French, who's German, who comes from Asia, by the way they handle their fonts, their style, their letters. You got to practice and practice before you could bring it out to the streets and be shamed or shame all your friends. You got to be good. Even your tag style, you got to have a style. So when I put up my name, I'm saying, one, that I'm a female, that I'm from the 1980s, that I'm from New York City, and specifically I'm from Queens. All of this is said just by my tag. So, I think these guys were already aware that I had skills. So when I was invited, I could already draw and I could paint. But what I hadn't tried very much was spray paint. So for that, you got to go someplace like train yards, the industrial area, someplace to practice. My first thing was right across the street from my house at the handball courts at the local high school. Just in the middle of the night, took my stepdad's paint and started doing something horrendous. But, you got to practice somewhere. Gotcha. So that was that was the thing. I think these guys were already aware that I could do stuff. I had skills, so they invited me to be down. And then when invited to be in a big project that's over your head, you see some people step up and they show what they're made of. Right. And other people, go home with their tail between their legs, whimpering. And I've seen that.
Well, I was asking, obviously you're at a place where you make good connections. You obviously are a talented artist. They see that, but I'm willing to bet there's something else. And I could tell within 5 seconds, you're the kind of person that doesn't put up with any shit. You know who you are, and you're going to speak your mind. And those are the people that, I don't know, man, I am magnetically attracted to them. So I can definitely see there's probably something more than they thought you were just a good artist.
Besides being a good artist, I could also speak well. So I could represent. When the media came calling at 16, I could speak on live television. I had my sentences correctly. I sounded eloquent and all of that. And I took no nonsense from anyone. I had the feminist movement through the 70s giving me power, that guys are not there to push us around. I still stood up for myself. But I was like not even 100 pounds. I'm 5'2". I was a tiny, tiny little thing and extremely sassy. So I would instigate trouble, and guys were reluctant to smack me up because I was so small. So I was like a little screaming chihuahua, at them. And I viciously shred anyone with just, verbally. So, guys were in fear of me or my wrath. Not that I hurt them physically, but I did a little bit of that to smack them around when I knew they couldn't hit me back. Oh, guys love it when you insult them, smack them up. They love it.
Yeah, a little light emotional abuse. I'm super into that. I get it. But where does that no nonsense, that sense of self, that strength? You were talking about the feminist movement, but like, where does that come from? Did you have like a really strong mom? Was your dad did he kind of encourage that? Where did that come from?
No, God, no. My real dad in Ecuador is an architectural engineer. He was a senator. He was a corrupt senator. He abandoned my mom and my sister when we were very little and went back to his wife and has a bunch of other kids down there. So he was a womanizer, a gambler, worse, a politician. So, perhaps the gift of gab comes from that, and the gift to illustrate, because two of my brothers down there are architectural engineers as well. So they followed in the family footsteps. And in high school, I was majoring in architecture. I figured that's the direction that I was going to go, but I was led astray. I realized I was a free spirit, needed to be paint large and colorful and wild and blaze my own path and not follow, directed, mathematical equations that you have to do for real architecture, as it should be. We want our buildings to stand up, but it was dreadfully boring as a teenager. I was running wild and free with my friends and hardly ever attending class. But I did go to art high school, so I got some smidgen of art education way back when. But I'd like to say that I held it together as a young person in the boys' club. So I had to learn how to navigate that, and teenage boys aren't too hard to manipulate. Just a smart cookie that knows just how to manipulate them and have them eating out of your hand and doing whatever, So I learned that skill early on, even before high school, how to be a coquette and how to control these boys. So, I navigated really quite well. And then by 1980, 81, the exhibits started to happen, and as well as books and documentaries, the motion picture Wild Style. I had a lead role in that at 16, 17 and such. So everything snowballed, the traveling the world and being a celebrity and having to give out autographs as a teenager and having a big bank account, as the paintings were selling like hotcakes early on in the galleries, and we just couldn't keep up with the demand. I literally did not have time for my senior year of high school.
Wow.
Because I was booked up with projects and interviews and traveling and school. Then they frown on kids just walking out the door doing their thing. You need like a parent to come get you. You're a minor. I wasn't having that. I was done. I took my GED, the exam, and I was done with school. I moved on with life. I had a career.
All right. So something I noticed, and it was really subtle, and I may be reading into this, but you first said that you are an artist, and then after that you said your origins were graffiti artists. So I'm always curious how people either utilize labels or don't, and whether they're applied by themselves or others. And so you said artist first, which I love because that's all encompassing. That can mean so many things. So how do you feel about graffiti artists? Because whenever I look you up, everything says graffiti, but
right. That's, people need a label in order to describe us to others. It's either graffiti or street art or hip hop or some kind of label to describe to others. But I'm an artist. I'm basically a painter. But when I'm called a graffiti artist, again, that's a label to describe to others what my origins were. Graffiti to us was just like university or schooling is to others. That was our boot camp for art, our
Right.
graffiti. And I did that for like 5 years, painted on subways. It taught me courage and confidence and a different personality than I started off with. So much more bravado and confidence than I actually really have. This is just, an act. Because inside I'm just soft and squishy and all of that, like any girl. Anyway, so that was our schooling. And you are not still called a college student, are you?
No.
Nobody else is either. You're not called
No.
a college student or university or even an arts major or you're not called that. You're called by your profession once you're out of there. So, some people, of course, love to, throw around their university if it's Ivy League. I'm Harvard. It doesn't matter.
See the guys wearing the big class rings and stuff. Yeah.
Right. Because that shows prestige. It's not just any old school. It's that. So, but I don't do graffiti anymore. I haven't broken the law in decades and decades. I don't have the right to call myself a graffiti writer, a graffiti artist. And let's say 90% are graffiti writers, 10% are artists out of the graffiti bunch. 90% of them just want to bomb and destroy and tag up and then just go out and have fun and do things in the middle of the night and not do any art, nothing artsy, just tagging and throw ups and fun stuff and, quick stuff. And then 10% of us, want to do a bit of art in the middle of the night, and we call ourselves graffiti artists. So, and we really, really practice style until we master it, and we can do letters and all of that. That is, rare and far and few between people that can handle that. But I also do the illustrational stuff too. I did, characters on trains and things. So, we're not really graffiti artists anymore, but I'm also called a street artist. Okay. Everything that I have in the street is perfectly legal.
Right.
So, the description of a street artist is very vague. It is people who do it legally, who do it illegally, people who do it with stickers and stencils and posters and rubber bands and wood and metal and glass, whatever, or knitting, all kinds of mediums. You can get arrested, and it's street art.
Right.
So no one is asking, is your stuff legal or it's not? What used to be called a mural, perfectly good, normal mural, maybe paid for, perhaps not. It's still a mural, but now it's called street art. So, when I bring like regular people out there to do stuff and paint a mural for the first time with me on a legal spot, like my neighbor down the road here, I got her for her first mural at 71. She's done a few of them now. Is she technically a street artist? I'm not sure how it applies, but anyway, that's where we are. I'm sure the labels will come up as graffiti artists because that was my origins. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And so I've noticed graffiti artists or hip hop artists, like I think from digging around, I saw that look on your face. Digging around, it seems like, you did that movie Wild Style at a really early age, and that kind of looked like that sort of cemented you. So it's like most of the references kind of stemmed from there. I guess that kind of cemented you as a hip hop icon almost, huh?
So in the early 80s, the phrase hip hop was coined perhaps by the movie Wild Style that we are in. That's when it appeared, and that's when the corporations and the media all linked it together. Graffiti and breakdancing and rap music, emceeing. These are all elements that belong together. But honestly, it only affected people who lived in some neighborhoods in New York City. And listened to hip hop music and rap music when that began and all of that. In other neighborhoods, they did not hear it at all. They were still painting to Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and other stuff like that. And so this is done as kind of a disservice to us all and lumped us up into a stereotypical kind of hip hop thing because the elements go together and now it's a bona fide subculture. There's the music, there's the art, there's the, all of these elements are needed to be a bona fide subculture. So they threw us in there like backdrop to a concert. And that's what we're supposed to be. But I witnessed the beginnings of hip hop, sure. It was entertaining. It was fun when everyone was like party, party, party. But then the movement changed and turned all thug-like. Everyone wants beef and women were demeaned and insulted and are treated in such horrible ways and talked to about in such ways. Just we were just a decoration on some man's arm, not to be taken seriously. We're either a bitch or a hoe. Come on, really? There's no medium there. There's no acceptance for us talented ladies. So the hip hop movement did not sell with me. The music I wasn't too fond of it that well. I listened to different music. So I follow maybe only like Missy Elliott. Aside from that, I don't really care for hip hop music, but they call me a hip hop icon. And that's another stereotype of that we're supposed to fall into this category. Oh, you don't listen to hip hop music? What? Well, not many of us did. Again, we were very, very focused on our art and what we did. We weren't running off and dancing here and spinning records over there. And we were focused on our art. People that did all of that stuff, they were not. They were just little groupies, little dabbling here, dabbling there, not doing it all very, very well, but just a little here, a little there for fun, for fashion. Kids do that. They go through phases.
So, I mean, it seems like not just your sense of self, but how women are treated. Seems like that's something that runs deep. Like, it sounds like you had that in you from an early age. And I'm wondering, have you influenced either others? Have you, like the crews you ran with, the people that I'm assuming you have people kind of, what do you call it in art? Like interns? Like, what do you call it? Like people who come and kind of learn from you?
Yes.
Apprentices?
they're still interns and apprentices. So yes, all of that. But they are paid. They are staff
Gotcha.
on an hourly wage and all of that. So and then when they're beginning, yes, I have a 17-year-old intern. She's more the intern. The other kids, maybe not. They're just called assistants.
Yeah.
Um,
But do you kind of
um,
do you sort of
I
mentor
I
them?
do I do influence others, and then not just the ladies, but the guys as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
because you have to raise your sons with respect from the very beginning. So since I was 12, I realized that women were being oppressed
Mm.
and treated as second class citizens, and therefore I left my Christian religion. I
Mm.
realized it was all in the Bible. It was all in the church. It was how we were being treated like trash. And
Mm.
at 12, I realized that, and I left my religion. I ditched it. Was not having it. No more of that. So I was a feminist since very early on. I feel, and I definitely influence others and inspire, and I empower other women to stand
Mm.
up for themselves, to speak up for themselves, to look a guy straight dead in the eye and tell him what's what. Not to bow and say, excuse me, please, I'm sorry, forgive me. No, just tell them what's what. You have to think a little bit more because women are raised to be timid little souls and let the men control stuff. So it is a lifetime of training that I have to try to, overcome. That they're taught to be timid and meek and quiet and do small scale work and artwork and not represent and be a wallflower and let the men folks speak. There's none of that. So I teach them how to stand up for themselves. I teach them leadership. I teach them how to control stuff. Sure, there's other guys that are older and more powerful and stuff, but if you know better, you can take control. And I am inspired by, a lot of perhaps, television characters, everything from the Brady Bunch in the 70s to the girls standing up for themselves to Charlie's Angels from the 70s. These women were beautiful, but they kicked ass.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
they were powerful. They were gorgeous. I had a crush on Jacqueline Smith for the longest.
So,
um,
what do you think the balance is of mentoring just in life in general versus art? Like, would you have people come in like your interns?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh,
I'm always
like,
doing my thing. They get to assist. They get to help
oh,
on everything that I do. But when there's other jobs and gigs that come that I don't want, I push them to take. I train them to go out into the world and do their thing. So, you know, um, it's
yeah.
it's 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 a difficult balance, but I am always doing my thing, and by them helping me definitely prepares them for that. But my older assistant Matt, he's been with me 4 years now, and he's going off and doing his own commissions. I'm still supervising a little bit, making sure that everything is tight and he's not being exploited, that the design is good, and
Mm.
all of that. We give him paint, we give him ladders and scaffold and make sure that he can do this commission and all of that. So, we're training them to fly off on their own
Yeah.
and exhibit in galleries and do jobs and earn money because, I can only pay them so much. I pay them an hourly wage, but when they go off and do commissions, they're making thousands of dollars. And that's where they should be.
Mm.
So they have to learn every aspect from doing the artwork to learning the business and being able to speak to a client and ask for all that money, and then you'll get it,
Mm.
especially since he's a white guy.
When I was managing like junior engineers, they come up a lot of times green right out of college, and I think the most rewarding thing like of my entire occupation was seeing these folks come in and be able to help them, grow them, not just professionally but personally, kind of navigate all that stuff. And then when they'd leave the nest, man, I don't know, it was like a sense of accomplishment I would have never been able to get on my own. And is that kind of what you get with these people? It's like
Yes.
I was going to say sort of motherly instinct, but it's more parental. Like I didn't want to seem to imply that it was just because you're a woman, because I get that same thing.
No, it's because I really didn't have kids of my own. It just didn't happen for us. I've been married 28 years, but I always mentor young people.
Mm.
I always take out that maternal instinct that way. I've always got somebody under my wing, and it is the most rewarding work. To help these young kids, not just out of high school, just out of college, and even during high school. When I lived in New York City, I worked a lot more with the Frank Sinatra School of the Arts. That's a high school. It was a 10-minute walk for me. So I paint murals with them regularly every year. I get an art education grant. So I paint walls with them and mentor these kids. And sometimes I know them for like the 4 years that they're there. I paint with them regularly, but they'd also walk up to my studio to come and hang out after school. So I'd also help them build their portfolios so that they can get into college. Because you know how much college costs. Could be $50,000 a year or more for like NYU and Parsons. And when these kids get a full scholarship, because I've mentored them and helped them build a beautiful portfolio by being, an honest critic. That piece isn't that the best. You could make it better like this. And then they go off and do it. And then it's like brilliant. Like, wow. So that is the most rewarding thing when they get scholarships after scholarships and they're getting into college by flying by their own talent and skills, but because I encourage them. And in school, they do too. The school is amazing. Their teacher is amazing. That encourage them and helps them build their future. This is the moment when you get your foot in the door, or you're going to have like student debt till you're like, 65. Come on. So, if you do it with these little hands, by all means, just go for it. So I'll even help 13-year-olds with their portfolio to get into art high school, and then so on and so on. So it's the most rewarding work. I mean, sure, it's nice to sell your paintings for lots and lots of money, and all of that is wonderful, but it's more rewarding to pay it forward, or even more importantly, bring it full circle. Because when I was 16, like I mentioned, grown-ups took me seriously. And even more so, not just the graffiti guys, but other people like Martin Wong, Jenny Holzer, some of these guys out in the real world, Keith Haring and Basquiat. I exhibited with all of these guys. That's the crowd that I rolled with. But I was a teenager, and they took me seriously because of my talent and probably because of my mouth. I don't know. Front of the mouth, and I was charming and funny and sassy.
You've got a spirit about you. Yeah, it's magnetic.
I don't know. So I pay it forward. I take kids seriously. I don't care if you're 15 or 16, and I know you can pull it out. I know you got it in you, and I believe in them, and therefore they step up. They haven't disappointed me yet. Kids are absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Something you said, take kids seriously. That's something I've always done. Like, I've always talked to kids just like I would anybody else. You know what I mean? It's like I give you the same level of respect I do everybody else. And it's amazing how many adults switch into like this, like even like with a 15-year-old, they switch into like this little kid voice, like when they're talking to them. It's like, why do you do that? No. Like, I can't, like everything about me cringes when I hear that. It's like, what's wrong?
So I learned in a way that is probably unexpected how to take kids, even more younger kids, even more seriously, middle schoolers. Is my husband and I, we haven't in a few years, but we play a lot of Minecraft. You familiar with Minecraft? Yeah. So there's a big grown-up community in that, by the way.
Yeah,
so we'd build amazing worlds, and then we'd have kids from all over the world come and visit and hang out, and you can speak with them, and they'd be in all parts of the world, and they'd come to your world, and they'd build homes and businesses, start governments, and do all kinds of interesting stuff. And they're at 12, they can build like automatic machines that run with like computers and stuff. And again, a 12-year-old built a government and I had to attend government meetings. It was so cool. These kids are brilliant at that age, and they're like little grown-ups. So, I just can't believe how people treat them like kids. No, they're amazing. I paint with middle schoolers and high schoolers. They're my favorite.
That's so cool. That's so, I've noticed, at least in my life, like putting stuff out on the internet, you can like create your art, whatever it happens to be. You can toil, and sometimes not much comes back. And then every now and then somebody will come back and tell you how much whatever you did or said made a difference, inspired them. I'm willing to bet you get that back on a pretty regular basis, right?
Very much so. Well, way back when MySpace was around, I had an account in that, and I had a huge collection of other women artists from around the world. Hundreds and hundreds of women, and they'd send me photos of their work, giant murals, and they say, "You inspired me to do this. It's because of you that I did this, and I have a career as art. You showed me and proved to them that even with my unconventional beginnings as a subway graffiti writer, I've taken it, made it into a career and as a success. And I keep going and bigger and larger museums and bigger walls and so on. And I've inspired even, a young guy to open a skate shop somewhere. It's like, well, what do I have to do with skate? I just gave him I empowered him to just, get it in gear. And this is something I read in the magazine. I'm like, it's not something that you told me in person. Is like, wow, this is amazing. I have an impact on people that is beyond my comprehension. So I take my role seriously, being a role model, and be knowing that I can empower other people to do that. So they get back to me all the time. Sometimes it's like a 3 or 4 page study on a mural that I painted and how they deciphered it, and they're completely wrong. It was, an image I felt like doing at the moment. It fit the space. I wanted to get out of there real quick because I didn't like my hotel. It didn't mean anything. But they wrote 4 pages on some political imaginary thing and stuff. And I was like, it sounds good. Go with it. Submit it. It's fine. It's completely wrong, but it sounded interesting. So I impact folks in all kinds of ways. I get kids that write me from every corner of the world, and I do Skype chats and Zoom chats and stuff. They're writing their papers and they're doing a video or some kind. I get hundreds of kids that write me, and we write them back because I get an art education grant. So I'll even speak to a 12-year-old from Sweden. I'll talk to a 10-year-old from Australia, or a young professional from, the UK who's learning to do murals. And since I've traveled the world, I realize it's different scenarios in different places. But kids reach out to me from every corner. So when I get some grown up to say, "Oh, I don't know how to find you," so like, oh my goodness, some 10-year-old from India could find me, and from Iran could find me, you're in Miami. Oh my Lord. So I love speaking with kids and educating them and making sure that they understand all of these things, the difference between graffiti, between street art, and how it works, and how you can take it on to be a career. You got to learn how to hustle, hustle, hustle. They're not going to just acknowledge how brilliant you are. You got to learn how to hustle.
Mm-hmm. You got to speak for. That's something I learned. It's like, if you don't speak up for yourself, nobody else will. You've got to. You got to find your voice.
Scream, make yourself heard, make some noise.
Especially when you're 5'2", right?
Yeah, I'm very small, but I it's hard to imagine that. But I run a crew of painters and such, even a crew of guys, and I'm the boss on the job. And it's hard for my husband to, kind of deal and cope with that. But there's always the status of the master artist. I drew this thing, I'm in charge. That's all there is to it. I designed it. This is my baby. Everyone has to listen to me. When it's a collaboration, mind you, and my husband is a brilliant artist in his own right. When I found him way back when, he had already traumatized a couple of mayors in New York City with all his antics, with taking out the subways, the Brooklyn Bridge, the highway. Him and his brother, they destroyed all kinds of everything in New York. And so he was a bit of a bomber. That's what they're called, guys that love to just, do a lot of vandalism. But when I met him and we married, I discovered that he was an artist deep down and got it all out. So he's been a brilliant artist. And when we collaborate, he paints his thing next to me. I don't say boo. And I paint my thing, another artist on my other side, and we all collaborate together. But if I design the entire job and we're being paid, everyone listens to me. I'm the boss on duty, and I can be a pretty tough, horrible, nasty dragon of a. Anyway,
that's
I
hard
get the
imagine.
Job done.
That's hard to imagine. But I like the. So it's like my partner and I, we do the same thing. Like my wife, we, whoever is in charge at this point in time, they take the lead role. Like, you organize all this stuff, you're the lead on that. Then over here and over there. There is no like, we're never subservient to each other. It's an absolute partnership. And sometimes stuff needs to get done and I need it done now. And it doesn't matter who's in charge, right? It's like, you're not going to get your feelings hurt. You know, we're just all moving in the same direction and we're a team. And it's awesome to hear that. Like, I could see that as exceptionally important to you, and as it should be, as anybody. Like, I don't know, man. Like, just the idea. I was born in '81, so just a slightly different generation, and raised in probably a completely different place. I grew up in Texas, and for some reason, like, I've always viewed people as equals, right? Like, we are just tools in a toolbox. If somebody is better at one job, I don't care what gender you are, what race, what ethnicity, what you believe. If you're good at what you do, go do it. You know,
and you get that respect.
Yeah,
do it well.
Yeah, give it and you get it. I love it. Well, I know you told me you had 30 minutes, and we're right about there. So I'm gonna pull the plug on it because I try to be super respectful of time. It sounds like you are busy,
Sure.
and
I think that my assistants are going to walk in the door shortly. So
we
got a second.
And you know what? Like, hearing how giving you are of your time, how could I ever possibly take another second? Like, when you have all these amazing like kids to work with, and it's like, oh my goodness, like, it makes me feel amazing the fact that you would give me even a minute of your time. So I really appreciate that. So I want to say right here at the end, if people hear you, they're interested, and like, I didn't even get to talk about how your art inspires me or touches me, any of that stuff, but they will definitely be affected by it. So if you want people to interact with you in some way, or see a thing, or go to a website or whatever, or social, what is that?
My Instagram is LadyPinkNYC.
All right, that's easy.
Short, and sweet. I have a website as well for that's ladypinknyc.com. So right. For more serious inquiries, but otherwise my Instagram, I try to keep up. I put stories and I post most everything that I do. I do more than I could ever post, but it's out there. My Instagram. Importantly, I see what all my homegirls are doing around the world, and they inspire me. All the ladies out there.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop recording, and just one more time, thank you so much.
Thank you.